There's a heartbeat louder than thunder. Revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care?
Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you native news from way up north. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're joining me for the first time, for the past 2 years, Heartbeat Alaska has been aired across Canada, Greenland, the Russian Far East, across Alaska, in Montana and Arizona, and now we welcome you. We're so glad to have you with us. On today's program, we travel to the top of the world to Borough, Alaska for their news. Then to Kotzebue, Alaska, where they're still picking berries, though most are frozen. Nationally, Leonard Peltier has been incarcerated for the past 18 years. We'll find out what's happening with that case. Of course, we have the National Powwow Directory, and later on, Gary Fife with native news across the nation. Welcome, America, to Heartbeat Alaska.
This is Native News Across the Nation. I'm Gary Fife. In Washington, some members of Congress are slamming the process used by the Bureau of Indian Affairs to recognize Native groups as tribes in the eyes of the federal government. During hearings before a House committee, 3 small tribes from Michigan brought their case before Congress. Indian Country Today reports the Little Traverse Band of Odawa, the Little River Band of Ottawa, and the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi have asked Congress to bypass the federal acknowledgement process and grant them recognition. Though House members from Ohio and New Mexico slammed the BIA process as too cumbersome, expensive, and lengthy. The political race for leadership of the Navajo Nation has come down to 2 candidates. Incumbent President Peter Sinza will face against Albert Hale in November. In a departure from past races, this one seems to be fairly calm. President Za and his opponent, Mr. Hale, have both greeted each other with handshakes and hugs, saying that they appreciate the fact that there was little mudslinging during that campaign. The birth of a rare white buffalo has natives in the upper Midwest excited. The unusual 2-week-old white buffalo calf is drawing a lot of spiritual pilgrims to a farm in Janesville, Wisconsin. The unnamed farmer says he doubts the calf, whom he calls Miracle, is a true albino, but will have the animal tested genetically anyway. But that doesn't seem to discourage some natives and others from traveling to the farm to see for themselves. He says natives from tribes across the country have trekked there to pray, smoke ceremonial pipes, and leave religious offerings. Fans of the fantastic pottery produced by the San Ildefonso people of the Southwest will have a rare opportunity to learn that art. The 6th annual Lawrence Indian Art Show in Lawrence, Kansas will be hosting a pottery making workshop starting September 20th. Beginners to advanced students will get the chance to study techniques with instructor Barbara Gonzalez, but there's a hefty fee of $350 and space is limited. For more information, contact the Museum of Anthropology at the University of Kansas in Lawrence. The Eastern Band of Cherokees of North Carolina are trying to find a way to get a high-stakes gaming venture on their reservation, but they're having trouble with the state governor. The tribe has been able to get the governor to agree to video gambling that involves games of skill, but has balked at games of chance, such as video poker. But there's also a catch. The governor has not defined the difference between a game of chance and a game of skill. The Eastern Cherokees wanted 5 gaming halls with a $200,000 payout, but Governor Jim Hunt will agree to only 1 hall with a $25,000 payout. Hunt has agreed to a joint economic task force to continue to seek a solution. Native students at South Tama High School in Iowa are complaining that they are the subjects of racism, and they're telling the State Board of Education about it. The natives are complaining about treatment at South Tama High from teachers and administration, and they add it's been going on for years. They also say that Native students are blamed unfairly when trouble occurs with a non-Native student, and that racism affects Native student scholastic achievement. School officials have not said much, and School Board President Ron McGavran says they'll do their best to effect some kind of reply. And finally, the frozen body of a 500-year-old Eskimo girl was discovered this month on the frozen shores of Borough, Alaska. The child was found by passers-by after the shoreline eroded and exposed the remains. Scientists had their brief chance to study the little girl, and they say they've learned much about her health, clothing, and diet. And they've got the blessing of local elders before she was returned to the earth. The little girl was the subject of much discussion among the school children of Borough, and many of them said her presence was felt in their classrooms. The child was given the name Akanayak, meaning dear young girl in the Inupiat language, and she was reburied with cards and letters from the Borough Eskimo school children. We'd like again to greet the public television program directors who are watching our program for the first time. We'd like to say thanks, and we hope you like what you see. This is Native News Across the Nation. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife.
Revolution is in the air. No matter if you like it mild and sweet, or if your favorite foods are hot and they're spicy, Coca-Cola Classic fits every mood. With every kind of food, there's always Coca-Cola, yeah. Coca-Cola, always Coca-Cola.
From Yakutat to Borough, Alaska newspapers publish news that makes a difference in your community. Information about events and activities that is timely, accurate, and dependable. Stories about people who make the news in your community. Stories about world events that affect your community. And stories that reflect the diversity of all Alaskans. If it makes a difference in your community, you can read about it in an Alaska newspaper. Subscribe now.
Welcome back. Let's travel now to the North Slope Borough, to Borough, Alaska, at the top of the world, where Tina Corwin reports on a problem that touches the lives of all of us: global warming.
Working under a historic agreement between the North Slope Borough and the Chinese Academy of Sciences, 2 Beijing scientists are in Borough to do field research on global warming. Their focus is on climatic and environmental changes in Borough. The researchers are examining tundra lake core samples to help determine climatic changes over the past several thousand years. They will compare these findings to recent climatic conditions as monitored by NOAA's Weather Station and Climatic Monitoring and Diagnostic Laboratory in Borough. Their goal is to determine if present climatic changes are abnormal or part of a natural long-term pattern of change.
Our main object is to collect the samples and from the lake and the lagoon, the deposits. From the deposits, we get information. After they analyze those deposits, we can collect the information to understand what happened in the past. Climate record is not longer enough, only 100 years. So we have to trace back to several hundred, several thousand years in the past. Then make sure what kind of a natural change in the past.
During his visit to the Academy's headquarters in China last April, Mayor George Mawak Sr. signed the cooperative arrangement allowing the scientists to come to Alaskan Arctic. The research is taking place with the support of the Borough's Department of Wildlife Management. The scientists are expecting to remain in Borough through September 7. While the global warming research continues, other unusual work is taking place on Elson Lagoon at Borough. An underwater salvage team under contract by the Army Corps of Engineers is removing scrap metal left over from various projects, including some conducted by the U.S. Navy several decades ago. Earlier in the season, the Corps brought up a geophysicist from Vancouver to perform a magnetometer survey. A proton precession magnetometer detects variations in the Earth's magnetic field. Where it is disturbed by metallic objects, the instrument detects changes. Each site was marked with a buoy to signal the dive team. The divers don't know what they'll find at each site, and visibility is about 2 feet. A team spokesman said so far, the objects they've hauled up have been pretty small.
Basically what we do is anchor off on the buoy, make a dive, do a circle pattern with a rope, about a 60-foot diameter pattern, and whatever we come up with, we come up with. Yeah, there's a lot less than what we thought would be down there. We did find a truck, though. I knew it'd be down there. I saw a tire, and I said there's going to be a truck down there. About 2 minutes later, we pulled up a little Tonka truck.
Borough Technical Services, a UIC subsidiary, is providing logistical support for the cleanup effort, which is scheduled to come to a close this week. The remains of a 5- or 6-year-old girl found frozen in the cliffs of Borough's rapidly eroding coastline were reburied in the new Borough Cemetery in a small ceremony in late August. The girl's remains were autopsied in Anchorage prior to the reburial by Dr. Michael Zimmerman, an internationally known forensic specialist. At the request of Borough's Elders Council, the body was not taken out of the state and was reburied as quickly and respectfully as possible. Test results from the autopsy are not yet completed, but the body is estimated to be about 200 to 500 years old and may be contemporary with a frozen family found in Mound 44 in the early 1980s.
Where it was found at the Kotzebue site is right close to where the Mound 44 excavations were in the early 1980s, so it seemed appropriate to rebury this body close to the original, since they came out of close to the same place.
After we get the preliminary report on the autopsy, we'll let public know what the report is about. We'll speak with elders.
Third-grade students learning about archaeology at Pollock Elementary School made a special card for the little girl, which was placed in the casket with her.
I'm doing an archaeology unit with my students, and we're studying what the Inupiat culture was like 500 years ago. When the children found out that the little girl was coming back to Borough to be buried, they expressed a wish to make a card for her. So they made a special card that I think really reflected their care for her.
The burial service was performed by Reverend Dwayne McKenzie of the Barrows Assembly of God Church. For Heartbeat Alaska and the North Slope Borough, I'm Tina Corwin. Kuyanakbak.
Thank you, Tina, from Borough, Alaska. Every week, we bring you the National Powwow Directory. Powwows from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South and the Midwest, all across the United States of America. Let's begin with powwows, starting with the 18th Guilford NAA, September 15th through the 17th at Castle McCulloch. That's in Jamestown, North Carolina. If you're in that area, please attend that powwow. The Simmons in 94, date September 15th through the 18th at the Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut. Call 800-203-CORN. That's easy to remember. The Northern Ute Powwow, September 16th through the 18th at Sky Ute Downs Indoor Arena in Ignacio, Colorado. The Glyca, September 16th through the 18th at the Bedford Hospital. If you're on the East Coast, it's in Bedford, Massachusetts. And don't forget to get me video if you happen to be attending. The Warrior Powwow, September 16th through the 18th at High Ground, and this is in Neillsville, Wisconsin. The Mankato Wachipi, September 16th through the 18th at the Land of Memory Parks in Mankato, Minnesota. The next powwow, if you happen to be attending, is the Earth Spirit, September 16th through the 18th. The exact location will be announced later, but the city is Fort Scott and the state is in Kansas. The third Kentuckian powwow, September 17th through the 18th at the Powwow Grounds, and that's in Louisville, Kentucky. I'd love to attend some of these powwows, wouldn't you? If you get a chance to, please do. Brighten a Vision powwow, September 17th through the 18th at the Dome Center in Henrietta, New York on the East Coast. Keepers of the Dream powwow, September 17th at the Lake County Fairgrounds, and this is at Crown Point, Indiana. The next powwow is the 15th annual powwow, September 23rd through the 25th in Winfield, Tennessee. How fun to be able to attend that powwow. Please remember, if you're attending any of the powwows, to get me video. Call area code 907-272-8111. A Lakota Sioux, Leonard Peltier, is now serving 2 consecutive life sentences for the killing of 2 FBI agents. Last June, in Washington, D.C., a gathering was held. Many people believe that he was unjustly incriminated. They gathered by the thousands for Peltier Weekend, protesting the 18-year incarceration of Leonard Peltier. The incident took place in 1975 in South Dakota, while Native Americans were campaigning to protect their traditional lands and resources. Such actions have sometimes involved violent confrontations with the authorities. The FBI agents were shot and killed at point-blank range after being wounded in a gunfight with Indian activists, in which a Native American was also shot. Peltier, who was incarcerated in Leavenworth Prison in Kansas, was convicted after the killings at Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. But Amnesty International has repeatedly expressed concern over the years about irregularities in the proceedings. Steve Simmons, a concerned citizen and advocate for Peltier's release, was there.
Everybody was agreed on one thing. It was that Leonard needs to get out of prison, okay? He has been unjustly prosecuted and imprisoned for 18 years, and everybody was agreed on that. Every other issue just got, you know, let's forget about it, let's not get divided over it, let's deal with getting Leonard out of prison, and everybody focused on that. And
who's this guy, Leonard Peltier? Basically, who is he? I mean, why is it that people travel great distances, read a lot of books about him, and you know, have great feelings for him? Well, Leonard Peltier basically is a symbol. All the atrocities committed against Indian people is signified in Leonard Peltier's case. Indian people feel that if Leonard Peltier can't get a fair shake in this land, how can any other Indian get a fair shake in this land? Everybody here knows that all the trumped-up charges by the FBI, all the suppression of information, the fabrication of information against Leonard Peltier. Bob Robidoux is standing back here, and he was there that particular day, and he's out free. So should Leonard Peltier be out free.
Free Leonard Peltier, the battle cry of Amnesty International, Indians throughout America, and people throughout the world. The demand for Peltier's freedom is based on the belief that Leonard Peltier may have been targeted by the FBI because of his role in the American Indian movement, an activist Indian rights group.
the best way everyone can help right now is to get on the telephone, start writing letters, and faxing Washington, D.C. The numbers on the screen, okay? The names and numbers on the screen. These people are involved in an investigation right now as to whether or not to recommend executive clemency for, to the president on behalf of Leonard Peltier. So the more pressure that the people in this United States and the rest of the world puts on those handful of people, the better. Okay, because I think they will listen.
Leonard Peltier's application for executive clemency is currently being reviewed by the Office of the Deputy Attorney General.
Not so complicated, as simple as can be. You're always a comfort, set my spirit free. Oh, you're a part of me, that's the heart of me. Dr. Pepper, you're a part of me. Dr. Pepper, you're a part of me. There's a heartbeat.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by the Chugach Alaska Corporation, a corporation committed to profitability, celebrating its heritage and ownership of its lands. Chugach Alaska Corporation, assisting in operating the Job Corps Center in Palmer, Alaska, and recruiting students statewide, working to better the lives of all Alaskans. travel now to Kotzebue, Alaska. It's fall time, the weather's nippy, but a few hardy souls are out there berry picking. Kotzebue, Alaska is one of the largest Inupiaq villages in the state of Alaska. Inupiaq are the northern Eskimo. Approximately 3,500 people live here. It's located 30 miles above the Arctic Circle. Traditionally, Kotzebue was an historic trading area. In between this fall's rainstorms, people in northwest Alaska are spending the last snow-free days of the season pursuing traditional activities, especially berry picking. According to James Norton of Kotzebue, the picking around town has been good in some spots, not so good in others. He claims the berries are better out at his camp, which is half-hour's boat ride from Kotzebue. Because sharing is a traditional Inupiaq Eskimo value, Norton may need a large amount of berries for his family of 5 sons and 3 daughters, and in his words, millions of grandchildren. Though the more abundant blueberries turn soft after the first frost, now is the time for prime cranberry picking. Others have found salmon berries on the hills around Kotzebue. Ruthie Sampson and Hannah Loon both filled their traditional baskets with blueberries and salmon berries. They say no matter how good or bad the berry picking is, they value being in nature. For them, berry picking is a connection to their traditional way of life. Thank you, John Creed and Susan Andrews of the Chukchi News and Information Service out of Kotzebue, Alaska. Some of the most popular segments on Heartbeat Alaska are our music videos. Sit back and relax now while we join a group from Greenland for Greenland Rock and Roll. Thank you so much for joining us on Heartbeat Alaska, your native TV news magazine. Hello to all our new viewers across America. Thank you so much for joining us. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Jeannie Green. See you next week.
As the purple sunset fades, are we really here alone? On the main street of the world, relocated from our homes, and all that's real seems so far away. Sacrificing tomorrow for yesterday. There's a heartbeat louder than thunder. Revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care? You, one so clever, never speak too soon. You, one who knows better to be sliding in and out of the room. With your friends close, your enemies closer.